A Nightmare on Elm Street is a 1984 horror film directed by Wes Craven and starring one of horror's most iconic characters, Freddy Krueger. The film captures that classic 80s horror feel, which we all know was one of the most groundbreaking and creative times for horror cinema. While the film opens with a "it was all a dream" sequence, it actually lulls us into a false sense of security. This isn't one of the times where that trope is used to sort of relieve us and, think, oh, it's just a dream. Actually, it flips it on its head, and the dreams are the instances where the characters are in the most trouble. I liked the idea that I couldn't always tell when our protagonist was dreaming or not. Sometimes she would seemingly be doing something, walking around, and things would get weirder and weirder until you realized she was dreaming. Normally this in a horror film is a bit of a cop-out, so it was really refreshing for it to be used like this in a film where it's actually really creative and the characters, there's still stakes for them. For me, the idea of not being able to sleep and having to stay awake is pretty horrifying. I have insomnia sometimes, and I know just not being able to sleep for like a few hours is quite stressful. And these characters are obviously staying awake for so long that they're starting to get a bit delusional. For me, that is really horrifying. I'd say if I had to choose sort of a negative or something that I wasn't too keen on, unfortunately it is the main character and our protagonist, and I literally can't even remember her name. She's not very memorable. She's not like a Jamie Lee Curtis character. She's not particularly badass, and she doesn't bring much strength or charisma to the role. She's more just sort of like a damsel in distress most of the time. I would say that most of the characters are not very memorable. I can't speak today. They're just fairly stereotypical, with the sort of dumb bad guy, I think he's a musician or something, that gets thrown in jail, and then, the good girl, the promiscuous girl who always seems to get it first. And none of them really go much beyond their role. Even Johnny Depp is in this, and he's like so boring as a character. Of course, the film does bring us one great character, and that is Freddy Krueger. Even though he really doesn't say much, he doesn't need to. He is great and creepy, and I think, more for the visual look of him, which when you break it down is quite strange. He's got the weird glove, which is pretty creative and creepy, and then they decided to mix that with like the hat and a striped jumper, which sounds kind of odd, but it works. And unfortunately we learn about him in a sort of an exposition dump by the mum, but I don't know if we really even needed his backstory in the first one. For me, I could have even done without it, and especially it being done in that way, but he's a great character. It's the whole purpose of watching this film, really. Oh, and the visuals, I will go into those. So I think what really elevates this film for me, obviously on top of such a strong antagonist, are the visuals. Some really, really creative kills and just some super creepy, cool 80s shots. You know, I think probably my favorite is when she falls asleep in the classroom and she sees her murdered friend in the body bag, and she, you know, you've got the kid reading out his homework or something, and then he's like whispering it in this hoarse voice, and she goes out and you just see the body bag being like dragged away by some unseen force.
Tina?
And then you've got the mum at the end descending into the bed, and there's like blue flashing lights everywhere. The deaths, like the blood gushing out of the bed. The girl like crawling on the ceiling, being attacked. Really, really cool, really, really creative. And yeah, definitely my favorite aspect of the film are the visuals. So overall, because I don't want to go on about it for too long, but this is a film that is very strong. I think just slightly let down by the protagonists and the central characters, apart from Freddy Krueger. But him plus the visuals and the cool kills and the creepy little things that happen more than make up for it. So I would say this is like a 9 out of 10 film. For me personally, I don't have the nostalgia with it, so my personal score for it might be slightly lower, more like a 7 or so. But if I were to rate this objectively, I would say it's like a 9 out of 10, definitely. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you watch this and you are a fan of Nightmare on Elm Street and you have something to say about it. Also, my pumpkins in the background here, I had to feature them because I spent like 2 hours doing them, and like literally no one will get to see them. I live in London, so we're going into like the tier 2 lockdown, so I can't even have my friends over apparently for you know, we were gonna do like a Halloween movie night, but I can't even do that anymore. So let me just show you my pumpkins. It's not a euphemism. Oh my god, it's all going wrong. This dude's my fit for it. Okay, thanks, bye. Okay, thanks, bye.